Okay, good afternoon to everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to speak in the final meeting of the Embrace project. This event comes also after 2 days the European Days for People with Disability Conference hosted by the European Commission. And what I can say that foster the inclusion of children with intellectual disabilities in early childhood education and care is more relevant than ever. And I will be very happy to hear about the presentation of the 4 projects resulting from a huge work. I would like to start by thanking the European Association of Service Providers for Persons with Disabilities for all of this work, and Mr. Thomas Bignal, and introducing myself. So my name is Christophe Lefevre. I'm chairing the permanent group on disabilities rights of the European Economic and Social Committee, ESC. And so we are very pleased to host that kind of project. The ESC is a consultative body of the European Commission, the European Parliament, and the Council of the European Union. And this committee represents the organized civil society at the European level and contributes to its involvement and participation in all the European Union decision-making process. So in this institution, we have employees, and civil society organizations that are equally represented in this institution. And its final position in all of our work is the result of a dialogue and compromise among different views. I told you that I was chairing the permanent group on disability rights. We represent persons with disabilities in a platform for debates and provide input to the European Commission on the implementation of the United Nations Convention in the European Union member states. So this committee has been extensively working on skills and employment through many opinions, as well as through the activities of the labor market observatory. And for this year, we have a specific group of members that have been appointed to coordinate our activities in the European Euroskills. I made the link between the childhood and care and the child care, and of course with about disability in a cross-cutting element. I would like to also tell you that all the measures taken should have an objective that no one is left behind, and this commitment is part of the 2030 agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. And you know that the Article 27 of the UN Convention on the right of persons with disabilities recognize the right to work, so to learn for persons with disabilities on an equal basis with the rest of the population. So all the care you will do regarding the child will be good for their growth and ensure the better situation regarding the work. So finally, we are convinced that it's important to ensure an inclusive and accessible initial education and training for all the children and all the young people. So there, we urgently need to invest in upskilling and reskilling to maintain people employability and productivity. And this criteria, this is critical, essentially in the context of dual transition, green and digital, to make sure that these measured transformation are taking everybody on board and benefiting to all people. So just to conclude that the Embrace is at the ground of an inclusion education system. There will be many things to say, but I prefer to let the floor to Thomas and let you discuss about the key issue of this project. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lefevre, thank you very much for your words and for making the connections between this project and how it relates to the future lives of young people as they grow up and grow towards adulthood. So thank you very much for that. And thank you for giving us this lovely venue for our meeting this afternoon, the final event of the project. I'm not Thomas, actually. I'm James Crow. I'm president of EASPD. Thomas is rather older than me, so you shouldn't mistake us, really. But I'm here for the European Union conference concerning the Day of Disabled People in Europe. And it seemed, between Thomas and I, it seemed like a good idea if I came along to this project conference whilst I was here in Brussels. And as it happens, it's a topic that is very close to my heart. I spent my professional career in Wales, and for those of you who know Wales, you may know that there are two languages in Wales. There's English and there's Welsh. And I was very proud. One of my proudest things was that there were two very strong playgroup movements in Wales. So that's for children from, say, 1 year old up to 4, who would go to a playgroup before they went to formal school and formal education. And there was a strong playgroup movement for the Welsh language organizations and a strong movement for the English language playgroup associations. And they didn't really get on very well together. There was quite a lot of rivalry. But I managed to, and there were lots of good people in both organizations, I should add, but we managed to get everybody to work together for the greater cause of integrating, including young children with disabilities into their local neighborhood playgroup, whether that was Welsh language or a speaking playgroup or an English language playgroup. And I was really delighted to have achieved that because it was quite difficult given some of the history between the two organizations. But they buried their differences and it was a fantastic scheme. And I think it meant that children who were disabled wouldn't have to go many kilometers away to a special facility. They would go to their neighborhood playgroup. There was extra resource put in, funded by the Welsh government, to allow extra assistants to be engaged. And really, it meant that they formed friendships with the children of their neighbors. It made all sorts of multiplier effects in terms of once those connections had been made. And I think, so that's why I'm delighted to be here to say a few words about this project at the beginning. But also we need to give some thanks. But it's really good to see what you're seeking to do, because many of us have concerns about what happens to adults with disability, to what extent they're included in society. But the battle has almost been lost if children are not allowed to live in an inclusive environment and grow up in an inclusive environment, where it's much tougher to actually achieve inclusion if you're trying to do that in a way when the child has been separated from early years into adulthood. So your project and the work you've done and the products we're going to be hearing about, the tools that you've developed, where I'm going to be really interested to see and hear them. Particular thanks, I think, go to Jolanta and also other members of the partnership. We know that you're the leaders, but in EASPD, we're very pleased to be participating and assisting with the project. And delighted to welcome our colleague from the European Commission, Miss Géraldine Libreau, a significant position within the Directorate General for Education and also for including Erasmus within her scope. So she has a grasp both of the policy actions that we want to see happen around inclusion, but also the practicalities of many, many Erasmus projects which benefit children and adults with disabilities. So delighted that you've made time to be with us here today. And now I can perhaps pass to my senior colleague here, Mr. Thomas Bignal. Just wanted to say it's one of his first public appearances as our new Secretary General, and I'm very glad to be able to share a platform with him today. And I think there's probably a couple of things you'd want to add in terms of introduction. But thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you also, Mr. Lefevre. So yes, indeed, this is my one of my first speeches as the new Secretary General of EASPD, and I'm particularly happy that it's on this very important topic. When I started at EASPD 10 years ago as a trainee, the topic of early intervention of children was to be honest, quite low down on the list of priorities at EASPD, and what we've seen over the last 10 years, in large part down to members who were pushing this agenda, but also down to members of staff who've made an important step. ECA has become, one of the top priorities, and ECEC as a whole for us, and I think that's the right step. Jim mentioned the importance of being able to access childcare and nurseries and kindergartens for young children with disabilities. And I think I would like to maybe add to that the huge impact that inclusion can also have for the children without disabilities. If I look even within the office, for example, attitudes of my colleagues, of my Italian colleagues, for example, around disability, because there is inclusive education, is far more advanced than it is for my own, where I was brought up in the UK and in France, and I didn't have at least knowingly have disabled colleagues in my or pupils in my classroom. And I think that really does affect us moving forward, how we look at diversity, how we look at values, how we look at all these elements. And so that's why it's so important to get this right at the very young age. Let's get back to the conference itself. So this is the final conference of the Embrace project, which is effectively to create practical tools to foster the inclusion of young children with intellectual disabilities into nurseries and kindergartens. There's a huge range of outputs that have been created to really help organizations do that locally on the ground in the best possible way. It's really learning from each other around Europe, which is really very much needed. The conference format is hybrid, meaning that we have, I think, over 200 people who registered online to follow us. So hi there, nice to digitally see you all. I can imagine you all behind your screens. And thank you very much for joining too. And we also have, of course, a high number of people in this room. Jim recognized and expressed gratitude to the speakers. Of course, I will do the same. But really what we want to achieve in this meeting room today is to explore and discuss the practical tools. Can they work? Also to reflect on the current challenges and maybe around the role of the European Union in facilitating inclusion in childcare. Of course, most of this responsibility is national level, regional level, actually very often local level, but is there a role for the EU, and what is that role? And of course, to be able to have that discussion, we need to make it sure that it's an active discussion, an active debate. So I'm sure there'll be time for questions and answers and so forth. That's it from us three. I think now let's go down to the real experts. Yes, and I think it will be Irene. We have Jolanta who will be introducing the project to us. Jolanta, if you could come up. Thank you.
And now I would give the floor to Jolanta, who is the coordinator of this project from Teatr Grodzki in Poland, that will talk you through the key points of our project.
Good, thank you. Mr. President, Irene, thank you very much for inviting us to this beautiful building. It's very impressive. I just want to share with you that for me it's very touching to be in Brussels after almost 20 years of joining the European Union and studying even European relations. It's been the first time I'm here. So yeah, very touching moment for me. So we've been, I had the pleasure to coordinate the project called Embrace together with my colleagues from 5 other European countries. Right. And I want to start with this picture we have taken in Athens in July 2022. And I'm waving to Marina from regional directorates, one of the partners who gave us this beautiful caps. I think we will remember it. So we met in July after 6 months of the project already running, because we started in pandemic, and it seems like ages ago, but in January 2022, we had the first meeting still online, and we met each other after 6 months of already running the project. So I'd like to introduce you to my wonderful partners. So we start with Kajmowicz-Sopicka, and which is represented by Alexandra here. And then there is Greece, and we have Epaminondas with us today. And then there is Emphasis Center with represented by Kristalla, Regional Directorate represented by Marina. I'm sure she's with us online today, and the host, which is EASPD with Irene. All right, so the next. No. All right, so the key objectives. Can you help me with the presentation here? All right, here. Okay, so the overall objective of the Embrace project was to contribute to the enhancement of the quality of early childhood education and care. And just like it was mentioned, that it's very important, the age of this preschool children is important to start inclusive environment. So we wanted to promote the inclusion of children with intellectual disabilities. All right. And the specific objectives were directed to also inclusive environment, that we wanted to direct to children with and without disabilities, to parents, to professionals, and to the community. So the first specific objective was to develop inclusive values and attitudes among ECEC staff and strengthen their knowledge and capacities to accommodate the needs of children with intellectual disabilities. Then the next objective was to foster a culture of inclusion, which could be equipped by equipping ECEC staff and leaders with the needed tools. Then raise awareness among children, parents, and the general public on the importance of inclusion of children with intellectual disabilities, and to increase the visibility of children with intellectual disability, overcoming barriers to early years of education. All right, and we have done it. We have done it with 4 main actions. We started with the research, with making analysis in 5 countries, and we've developed a transnational report which provided this critical analysis of the opportunities if on the European level. Then we designed, developed, and piloted, which is important, and the e-learning course for ECEC staff. And it will be both of these actions will be described in detail by Alexandra and Epaminondas. And then the third and fourth actions were was a handbook for ECEC staff and leaders on fostering inclusive environment, which will be described by me later on, and a toolkit for ECEC settings with useful and effective resources. Some of the posters you can see under this table, and there are also some videos and brochures, which will be explained later on by Kristalla. All right, and just a small quote from one of the pilots, because both 3 products, the handbook, e-learning course, and the toolkit were piloted in more than 20 kindergartens and preschool institutions. So just one quote that from kindergarten in Dobra, the little village in Poland. Let's add an image of a heart on an elephant as a promise to be kind and friendly to everyone. A girl shouted. So it was really piloted in practice, all the activities. Yeah, and this results were disseminated. Here. I'm two-handed. They were disseminated through a digital multiplayer event last month, which was participated by 352 online participants, and we expected only 100 in the proposal. And today is the final conference, and we expected 25 online participants, and it's more than 200. So we can see that there is a need for preschool inclusive tools, and we're very proud to be part of it. Thank you.
And now we can start a sort of a conceptual zooming in of this. We have a panel with 3 speakers, and we are talking about inclusive ECEC. So the context and the reason of this project to give tools for making early childhood education and care more inclusive. And with this, this will be discussed with me by Géraldine Libreau, from the European Commission, from DG EAC, who facilitate the work group the working group on early childhood education and care. Then we will have Alexandra Pedrova, sorry, very bad, from our partner Skopje, who will talk about our work of mapping inclusive in ECEC, training status, how early childhood education and care is organized in the countries that are partner in the project. And then we will go to Belgium, and Hilde Stockert, who is an inclusion coach, will talk to us about the model in Belgium in general, and in particular about the practice of having inclusion coaches. So without further ado, I will leave the floor to Géraldine.
So good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here to present a little bit the policy background for the work we do on early childhood education and care at EU level, and try to show how it links with the work you are doing in the projects. As we always try to build some bridges between the broad policy objectives that we want to achieve at European level through the European education area, and the work which is done by NGOs, by local authorities, and so many people on the ground who are actually developing really interesting projects. So I will tell you a few words about the policy background for our work. And the main thing for us on early childhood education and care is a text which was adopted in May 2019, which is the Council recommendation on high quality early childhood education and care systems. So a Council recommendation is a political text which has been signed by all EU education ministers, who agreed that they have common objectives, and they agreed on what quality looks like in early childhood education and care. And this is described in the European Quality Framework for ECEC, which has 5 pillars. So we always say that these are 5 pillars, and if one is missing, then the system is not stable. And all these 5 pillars are equally important to achieve quality. The first one is access. So we need to make sure that ECEC settings, meaning creches and kindergartens and all sorts of terminology you find across Europe, are accessible, but not only accessible from a physical point of view, but also they do exist, there are enough places, they are affordable, and they can welcome all the children and the families who want to use ECEC services. The second pillar is on staff, and it's really important that we have enough staff and well-qualified staff, and who are willing to stay in the profession. This week, we published a policy brief on staff shortages. This is a major issue at the moment, as we lack qualified people to work in this sector. The third pillar for quality is curriculum. So we try to promote the concept that early childhood education and care is education, not just care. Even if a child is 6 months old or 1 year old, they are still growing up and developing their cognitive skills. So they need well-qualified educators to work with them. And they need to have a curriculum as well. So there needs to be a pedagogical framework which frames the work which is being done with children in creches and kindergartens. The fourth pillar is on governance and funding. Governance is an important topic because we have many different layers of governance in ECEC, where the responsibilities often lie with local authorities or regional authorities, but also the national level has a very important responsibility, including for funding the sector. So governance needs to be efficient and funding needs to have adequate levels. And the last pillar, which tends to be forgotten, is monitoring and evaluation. So there are all these 4 pillars which must be in place, but we must make sure that we actually follow that the principles and the objectives that we have set are actually being implemented. And an important thing which came out as well out of this Council recommendation was a definition which was agreed for the whole EU, which says that ECEC refers to any regulated arrangement that provides education and care for children from birth to compulsory primary school age. So depending on how the countries are organized, sometimes we only talk about pre-primary school, sometimes we talk about childcare, which would be for the babies and not the toddlers. We look at everything because we see it as a continuum for the early childhood development. So the challenge that we have now is to implement this Council recommendation, which has high ambitions. We want to provide more early childhood education and care and better early childhood education and care at the same time. And this is really difficult sometimes to increase accessibility and availability without sacrificing the quality. So this is a constant struggle that the sector is facing. And on top of the general struggle, well, we have systemic challenges related to governance, as I explained before, to the lack of staff or qualified staff. And we have additional challenges which have come up, for instance, with the pandemic, with the war in Ukraine, with thousands of children arriving in the EU needing also early childhood education and care when there were often not enough places for the children who were already there before. Inflation is also a big problem for many creches because you don't tell babies to wear warm clothes, you just leave the heating on and you have to pay for the gas and the heating. And inflation is hitting hard the ECEC settings. So in this context, there are some important policy recommendations which relate to inclusion. And the first one is to analyze and address the barriers which prevent families or children to use ECEC. And then we need to provide inclusive ECEC services for all children, whatever their disadvantage, whatever their background, whatever their difficulties, we need to adapt the services to the children, whoever they are. We need to strengthen the preventive actions, and here we're talking about early childhood intervention. We need to train ECEC staff to work with children from vulnerable background or with disabilities. So I'm very happy to see that this is what you have been doing with this project. And we need to develop inclusive curricula. So these are all the political recommendations in this important text from 2019. Now, based on that, we have this European Working Group on ECEC, which has been working and reflecting on how to do it. So from 2018 and 2020, we have focused on two of the pillars of the quality framework, which was staff and access. And as a result, we published two important reports, and I will mainly speak about the toolkit for inclusive ECEC. So this toolkit describes a number of things. The very first part looks at all the universal policies and practices which benefit all children. So the idea is that if you create an inclusive environment, all children will benefit, whether they are with disabilities, whether they are from a poor background, whether they are migrants, they don't have the language of the country, and so on. So universal approaches. And on top of that, we add more specific measures for children who have specific difficulties. So we have different chapters looking at children with disabilities, children with a migrant background, Roma children, and what we called another category, other hard-to-reach children, for instance, the babies who live in jail with their mums, the children who have serious diseases and stay in hospital for a long time. And at the last minute, because we were in 2020, we added children in lockdown because overnight all children became hard to reach for early childhood education and care educators. So we looked at how people must work and how the system must be organized to actually be inclusive for all the children. This was based on the European Pillar of Social Rights, which also described in Principle 11 related to childcare and support to children, that children from disadvantaged backgrounds have the right to specific measures to enhance equal opportunities. So we're not only looking at equality, but equity is very important to be taken into account. So just looking briefly at the toolkit for inclusive ECEC, we describe the universal policies for the benefit of all children, and I won't go through all of them because you would have to look at the toolkit to read about everything, but staff training was a very important one. Also working with or supporting the settings who are actually working with the children. The national and the regional and the local authorities, they need to be there to support the creches and the kindergartens and the workers there, and not let them in isolation to work with children with disabilities, for instance, and their families. Very importantly, we suggested that global strategies were needed and not specific ad hoc measures taken when there was a need, but really have an inclusive visions. So I'll skip a little bit all these points to move on to the inclusive practices besides the policies, which can benefit all the children and make ECEC more inclusive. We looked at integrated work, which is the expression we use to mean working with the different services which serve children and families. So working with health services, social services, working with all the associations, all the people who can intervene to support the children and their family, and not just staying in a silo. Working with families was also very important in terms of supporting all the children and facilitating transitions from creches to kindergartens and then to primary schools. For children with disabilities in particular, we have a specific chapter, and again, I will invite you to look at the toolkits, but we described all the barriers which could be there, and the very first one was a lack of political will and vision. And from all the conversations we have about any topic, if you don't have this high-level political vision, then nothing happens, or it's short-term, or it's only in specific places. So this was the most important thing, but then we identified a number of barriers. And then we tried to identify some recommendations, which was to develop a national strategy. And then we gave examples of national strategies and also of inclusive practices, which relate to defining a vision for the setting as well. So we need a national strategy, but each setting should also have an inclusive approach, which means developing a vision which is shared by the whole staff who work there. We looked at examples of adapted pedagogies, curricula, learning plans, always with the idea of avoiding segregation, but providing the tools that the educators need in a mainstream environment. We looked at involving specialized teachers who can help those who are not specialized, but who need to work with children with disabilities. They can get some temporary support and specialized support also depending on the disability that they have to work with. And then we encourage working with associations, volunteers, health practitioners, which come back to this idea of integrated work, not working in isolation, but looking for the resources which can help. And that's the only way to make mainstream settings more inclusive and adapt to all the disabilities that they might have to face. Did I keep the right time? Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, well deserved applause. There were so many things in this overview. Just a couple of things that came to my mind is that there are a lot of challenges that we find in the disability sector that are very similar to the ECEC sector, such as staff shortages on the one hand, the need to provide access, but also provide the quality and the training elements. So yeah, and apart from that, I think that the work you did with the working group provided for very valuable resources, as long as there is some political will. So we are here from our side to push for this political will to be there more, and with projects like ours we are trying to provide a bit more of understanding of the situation on the one hand, and on the other hand tools to help those settings that have the will to develop inclusive strategies to do that. So yeah.
Just want to add that EASPD is a member of this European Working Group, which produced the toolkit, and we're very grateful for, because you bring the expertise also from all your members, and that's super important. So thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay, so after this, now we are going to talk together about what we found out in our research that was the first project result of the Embrace project with Alexandra.
Thank you very much, Irene. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and aspiring leaders and policymakers, I'm really glad to have an opportunity today to talk to you on behalf of the organization CMOP Skopje, which was a part of this project and supporting the process of implementation of transnational report and research in the all partners countries about the situation of inclusive education in European level. So before moving to the formal presentation, I would just like to highlight and to express my gratitude and congratulations to our partners for hosting us and to organize this conference and to have an opportunity to open this discussion in line with the International Day of People with Disabilities. So having personally ESC staff in my close family, I was able to see the challenges directly that they are facing in every day. So I would say that personally, I was able to recognize all that struggles that those family members were struggling with, how to make the distinguished and to not to empathize that much with the situation that children with intellectual disability are facing with in their everyday lives. So having taken that since early years, I was able to recognize that love that the professionals inputting every day in order to be efficient at their work and to support the development of children with intellectual disabilities. So nowadays I can talk from the perspective of social working, but also as a part of the consortium, that I'm really proud that the work and the effort that we all put in order to implement those projects and to prepare those project results that will significantly support the professional development of the staff. So I don't want to take too much time with the intro. Just I want to now formally pass to the presentation of the highlights of the transnational report. So the transnational report offers an in-depth insights in each of the participating countries regarding the opportunities for professional development and training of the EAC staff on the topic concerning the inclusive education and supporting the social inclusion of children with intellectual disabilities, but also highlighting the gap in the knowledge and the need of the improvement of their skills in order to perform their tasks. Also, the report concludes with concrete policy recommendations on European level that afterwards we can take into consideration and to build upon other projects and initiatives. The research was implemented in all partner countries in Poland, Cyprus, Greece, Belgium, and North Macedonia. And the target audience for this research were national and EU policymakers and educational authorities, then civil society organization providing non-formal thank you providing non-formal education opportunities to the ESC staff. Also ESC settings that aim to improve the training development and professional development of their staff, as well as researchers that could expand their knowledge and experience regarding this topic. On the next slide, thank you very much. I can take that. Thank you. So on this slide, you can see the timetable for the process of implementation. The research was implemented from February to November last year, and we started with designing of the research protocol, and then we moved forward in implementation of the research, which was including desk research, but also a key informant interview with ESC staff. And then we moved on developing the national reports and drafting the policy recommendations with, as I said, with concrete guidelines how to improve the situation regarding this topic. And then we move to translation of the transnational report in Polish, Macedonian, and Greek language. So regarding the structure of the transnational report, the report is composed of 4 parts. The first part is introduction, and you can find a lot of information regarding the target audience and the scope of the research. And then the next chapter is providing information about the methodology of the research process, leading to the research findings of the implemented research, and as I already mentioned, the policy recommendations. So on the next slide, you can see the main pillars that we found out during or we tackled during the desk research, which was inclusion of children with intellectual disabilities. So we made it in-depth research about the process of inclusion of children with intellectual disabilities, and then what are the needs of the staff, and what are actually their knowledge gaps in order to build upon to our e-learning course, and then also analyzing in depth the national strategies, how the different countries are involving the staff, also the parents, families, and community in order to support the inclusion of children with intellectual disabilities. Oops. Sorry. So some of the key aspects that I want to highlight during the presentation regarding the desk research, I need to say that Belgium, for example, it's doing a great job in order to in the process of transition of children from early intervention to the mainstream kindergartens in order no matter with kind of disability the children are facing with, including sensory, physical, but also intellectual disabilities. In Poland, for example, they're using theater of oppressed, but also they're having kind of like a way of many educational path, educational methods and model. In Greece, there is a lot of room for improvement regarding the participation rates of the ESC staff. While in North Macedonia, we noticed that there is a lack of a mechanism for systemic identification and monitoring of children with disabilities, because we also include them in the regular schools, but still the process of fully including them and supporting them to follow the educational program still needs to be improved. While in Cyprus, for example, the Ministry of Labor and Social Insurance, in a collaboration with the Parent Association and local authorities, established a public daily nurseries, which is really nice because a lot of children had opportunity not to attend not only the public facilities, but also to attend the private ones, supported by the business sector. Regarding the professional development, for example, in North Macedonia, there is a lack of clear defined, thank you, a clear defined guidelines how to support the process of professional development of the staff, which is not the situation in Poland. For example, they had a really strict national standards when it comes to their training and professional development. And in Belgium and Greece, the standards say that at least one of educators should have a bachelor degree in order to perform the educational process in the classroom. Also in Greece, it is required to have the bachelor degrees. So regarding the national strategies and action, I would say that I already mentioned that Poland, they also using the technique of theater, and in order to involve the children with intellectual disability, but also their family and community, in order to overcome the barriers and stigma of inclusion. In Greece, there is a special educational policy that is supporting the process of inclusion of students with disabilities in the mainstream schools by providing the necessary support. In North Macedonia, we need to say that also we have a lot of support from the government and the CSOs in order to support the process of inclusion of children, especially coming for vulnerable groups, including Roma population, poverty, health issues, etc. In Cyprus, for example, there is a practice offered to help the staff and educators to gain knowledge how to perform their work and tasks in order to support the inclusion of children with intellectual disabilities, and it's supported by the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sport and Youth. And in Belgium, the work with families and community is the key of inclusion, and it's supported by the also with the international standards. So the next part of the transnational report consists information about the key informant interviews. We implemented total 36 interviews with ESC staff regarding their professional background. Most of them, they had experience working as a teacher, pedagogist, social educators, educational coordinators, and heads of the institution, and they also had opportunity to be involved in the development of many policy on national and international level.
Alexandra, can you wrap up?
Yeah, this was the last thing. Thank you, Irene. And the report is concluding with policy recommendation and information regarding the inclusion, including provision of Thank you. Including provision of educational seminars focusing on a variety of intellectual disabilities, highlighting the importance of collaboration and implementing teacher-parent conference in order to support the process of development of children with intellectual disabilities, as well as development of strategic documents, and also involving policy makers in order to influence the policy on international level. Thank you, and I'm sorry that I broke the
No, it's good. It's good.
Thank you.
You were almost perfectly on time.
Thank you.
And thanks a lot. So we had a bit of a background of what we studied in different models in different countries, and we can see some recommendation to reminding us what we heard coming from the European Union. So the need for strategic documents, the need for training. And now we are going to see what's going on in Belgium with Hilde.
Thank you. I am Hilde Schokkaert and I am an inclusion coach. I work in for City of Ghent in the childcare service. And I wanted to tell you something about our model of inclusion coaches and the Centers for Inclusive Childcare. I prepared 4 chapters. I want to tell you what are who are the Centers for Inclusive Childcare. I want to tell you something about my tasks in our own ECEC in Ghent, and also the support we have in the care region. And then I also had some examples about the frameworks we work on, but maybe there will not be enough time to show, but maybe the presentation is shared with everyone. And then I invite you to have a look afterwards. Are the Centers for Childcare, for Inclusive Childcare. First thing you have to know is that in Belgium, we have a split ECEC system. The children aged 0 to 6 years, they first go to childcare. They attend childcare, nursery, kindergarten, or home-based daycare. And then they go to pre-primary school at the age of 2.5 years. The Center of Inclusive Childcare, they support and they work in the context of childcare. This means the nurseries, kindergartens, the home-based daycare for the babies and the toddlers, and but also, to make it a bit more complex, the out-of-school care for the children 3 to 6 years old mostly, and also the holiday care for children until 12 years old. We, as an inclusion coach, we believe that every ECEC can be inclusive, and that's where we support them. The concept of Centers for Inclusive Childcare exists only in Flanders and Brussels. And what you see here on the map are the 16 Centers for Inclusive Childcare, at least the care regions of Flanders and Brussels that have a Center for Inclusive Childcare. And almost in the middle, you see the care region of Ghent. So it's bigger than City of Ghent. It's a large care region. For this care region, my childcare service, City of Ghent, where I work on, is a big one. We have 32 own childcare centers, 43 out-of-school care centers, and we also have holiday care and a service for home-based childcare. But for all these children, we work with in a pedagogical support service in Ghent, city of Ghent, and that counts 19 members of pedagogical support workers, and I am the only inclusion coach there. The organization of every ECEC, we say, Center for Inclusive Childcare, is very different. There are large ones, small ones, but also our base is different. We can be a public organization or a private organization, but what we have similar is that we have at least a half-time inclusion coach in each ECEC. As you saw on the map, not every care region has a ECEC, and that's a bit of a challenge. There must be more people who support on inclusion, and for that now we are starting to work with the other pedagogical support in the region. And we set up learning networks. So there we share our methods and our vision about inclusion to make the other ones also strong enough to support on inclusion in the childcare centers. Now I want to tell something about my tasks as an inclusion coach in our own ECEC, so the big childcare service of City of Ghent, because there we built up our experience as an inclusion coach. This is our vision that we like to spread to all our childcare centers. We focus on the possibilities of the children, so we have a strength-oriented view. We want to connect children with each other, all different kinds of children, and diversity we see as an added value for everyone. We take parents with us in the inclusive story as an expert about their child and also as a resource to find solutions in answering the specific needs of their child. So we see parents really as an ally. We have respect for the carrying capacity of the team, and that is a challenge now because I heard it in the named challenges too, that there is lack of staff, that we find very difficult people who want to work in childcare. Many people are leaving childcare, so that is really challenging. Childcare is under pressure, but inclusion of children with specific needs is because of that, of course, also under pressure. So we need cooperation with external partners, and that is our inclusive network. And that's what we, as an inclusion coach, we have a central role there to build up that inclusive network. It starts with the accessibility of our own ECEC. We try to discover together with the teams the barriers, and we try to tackle them. We find barriers at the door, at the start of the partnership with parents and the start in the ECEC. And after the start, we find challenges and accessibility problems that have to make with the pedagogical quality of the ECEC. So our support, we support on the pedagogical and inclusive quality of our ECEC. And how do we do that? We develop tools and we try them out. And there we start from the pedagogical framework of our ECEC that you can see in the middle. We build up expertise in our own ECEC, as I told. So we cope with a lot of cases in our own ECEC. We find solutions with together with the people. So the contact with the floor is really important. We go often to the floor to work with our childcare workers. And then we are also point of contact for all questions about inclusion of children with special needs. We also have tasks in policy. We carry out the inclusive vision. We count in the voice of children with specific needs and of course also their families in decision making. We follow up the accessibility and actions. We make reports, we monitor, we evaluate, and we join also projects on inclusion. And then against that part of the work, with that expertise, we go to the care region. I told already, we build out an inclusive network, and here you have the relevant partners. And at the bottom, we of course we have the local partners that reach families with young children. We have the VAPH services, that's the Flemish Agency for Persons with Disabilities. Home nursing is also a partner. Advocacy groups of parents with children with special needs. There are different in Flanders. We also have a learning network with the other 6. We are supported by Opgroeien. And then we also want to work together with schools and the support on inclusion they have. So I return to the split system. We are looking for solutions to work together because we work with the same children, the same families, but we have apart services, and that's a bit difficult working. So we are building bridges with the schools, the preschools, so that we can work together on one case. For the searching of a place in ECEC, we also support the parents or the inclusive network of the parents when they search for a place. We collaborate with points of contact where parents go to inscribe for childcare. We also know where the ECEC are with a good vision and with a good quality. And we also support sometimes at the start at ECEC, because sometimes there are doubts about can we answer this question of the parents, can we see the needs and can we find good answers there. And we give a lot of advice on inclusion. There are many ways to reach us, and people know us and find us, and so we give advice. Sometimes an advice can lead to a process or a project, and then you have two possibilities of, well, or you get an individual project. I come then sometimes, I spend some time with your team, or I come to the group and we look after actions together, and that's very tailored to the facilities of that ECEC. But there's also another possibility, and that is a learning network. Then we come together with similar ECECs and we exchange experience and support, and we support each other. And there we can build out a strong vision on inclusion together. So that are the possibilities. And then I told you I had some frequently used frameworks there in the PowerPoint. I should say, get a look, but I will end the presentation here. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Hilde, and I'm sorry that it was over because it was very interesting. And for what concerns the video, maybe we will have a coffee break soon. We could project it during the coffee break so someone can have a coffee and look into it. Yeah, what I think it's very interesting for from the Belgian model, although coming from an Italian perspective, there is still some way to go into creating a mainstream inclusive system there. It's super interesting, this I heard the word network a lot. There was this inclusive network, the learning network, and then also the fact that the inclusion coach works, I have the impression, in the territory, and you become the point of contact for the families, for the association, for the schools, and this integrating approach. I think it's something that is very interesting, and it's also very interesting methodologically, the knowledge that you and your colleagues can acquire in the field of inclusion, and something that comes to my mind about, because we worked a lot with them with this project for developing, I mean, to collect good practices for the handbook that you will hear about in the next session, and for the testing of what we had created. And one thing that struck me, and also in the first interviews for the report, was that I mean, I really like the strength-oriented view, which is going, in the case of Belgium, very far, in the sense that the word disability and the disability approach, and also the training specific on disability, is something that is kind of rejected for an idea that every child is special in his own way. Can you just say 2 words maybe about that?
Yes, we in fact, in our communications, we never talk about children with disabilities. We talk about children with specific needs, and so you lay the responsibility to the others. It's often we that have a problem, and not the child. We have to, yeah, that's what you mean, that explanation. And that's where we coach on the vision that everybody is special, but some children need other experience to be understood and to answer their specific needs. And that's the way we communicate about it. So that's also the strength-based view that we have on children. And we see that parents appreciate that very much, because we look in another way to their child.
Thanks a lot. Very enriching. We have, if you would like a few minutes for questions and answer before the coffee break. I mean, we are late, but anyway, we are. Yeah, Emanuela.
Hello, thank you very much. I have a question for you. You are an inclusion coach. How did you earn this? I mean, and you are the only one there for many children. How did you get this, let's say, certification profile? Why it's hard for other people, maybe? So
It's a concept that was created in the beginning of 2015. There was some money from Opgroeien and also the VAPH, the agency, for 16 started inclusion coaches, and then the Center for Inclusive Childcare had to look how are you going to set in the half-time inclusion coach. So we in fact we build up what we do on our own. We listened very carefully to the needs of the sector of childcare. Before I was a childcare worker myself, I was a head of an ECEC, and we were also in the project. But we have in childcare not very much support on children with specific needs, other support. So now we discover that we have to find ways to work together and to get off our island. Yeah. Is this an answer to your question?
somehow, I just want to know, I mean, what kind of a path, educational course or experience shall one follow in order, or is it regulated there? Because it looks like a good practice that needs to scale up.
We are all bachelors or masters, but in fact minimum bachelors with different backgrounds. For me, my background is that I have a lot of experience with childcare, and that is what I need to support on inclusion. I am not the one that has very handicap specific experience, but I have experience in coaching and pedagogical coaching, and I know the pedagogical framework for every child. And that's a great, there are a lot of different children. So I think everyone that is open for that vision and has coaching capacities can be an inclusion coach. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Are there any other comments or questions? Yeah. Just yeah, switch it on, introduce.
It's a very specific question about the Belgian case. I wondered if you could elaborate a bit on the relationship between the Center of Inclusive Education and the houses of the child.
Ja. Ja, Huis van het Kind. Ja. House of the Child is a local partner of Opgroeien, and they are a really important relation for us in our inclusive network, because they lead parents to us. They lead parents to childcare, but it's important that they know that there are inclusion coaches when they lead parents with small children with specific needs to childcare. It's important that they also know that that can be supported. That was one of our tasks in the care region. We support on the start, and the searching for a place is also an important connection, I think. That, and in the other way also, if we have a concern about a child and we want to share, we want to share with the parents. If parents want, we can also involve someone of House of the Child that is a person of trust to find a good solution, or to set a step to a VAPH member.
Thank you. Any other final comments or questions? No? Online, are we? Okay, good. So we can take, yeah, 15 minutes for the coffee break, and during the coffee break, we will also show the video of it.
Hello, everyone. Well, I hope you had a really nice break and got some energy with the coffee for this last session of the final conference. I will start this session by presenting myself. I'm Angela Corby, and I'm the membership officer at the EASPD. I have been supporting Irene and the consortium during 24 months, developing the project's results, and I'm really happy to be here with you to show you what we have done and all our hard work. So thank you for being with us today. I'm going to now present who is with me and who will be the speakers now. First, we have Jolanta, who will present the Inclusion Handbook. It's a collection of the best practices of the schools and the organizations on what are the activities that can promote inclusion with children with disabilities. Then we go with Epaminondas from Greece. He will be presenting the online course, a tool that we have developed for ECEC staff in order to give them some tools and strengthen their knowledge on how they can promote inclusion in the classroom. And finally, we will have Kristalla from Cyprus, who will present us the toolkit, which is a compilation of posters that we can see some here, and also like some brochures that are in the entrance and they are available for you, and that help and give us some tips on how we can promote inclusion in the classroom and at home. So all the floor is yours, Jolanta.
Okay. All right. So I want you to present the handbook, inclusion handbook. It's called Fostering a Culture of Inclusion, which we find a very nice title from the beginning, to have a culture of inclusion. And I agree with our speaker from Belgium that's saying about children with specific needs is what I would recommend also in my country and maybe the whole Europe even, instead of talking about disabilities. Okay. So I will introduce the handbook. It consists of 4 chapters, 4 modules. I was explaining earlier about that it's divided into children, staff, parents, and community, and then how it was piloted and evaluated by the professionals, by children, and by community. So just like it was mentioned many times already, the aim of the project and this and the handbook is fostering inclusion of children with intellectual disabilities or children with specific needs. We've been developing it for last 24 months. I already introduced you to our partners, so I'll just go straight to the handbook. So each partner contributed to the book by presenting best practices from their own countries, but also from other European countries on the local, regional, and national level. It consists of more than 60 best practices for children, which can be used for working with children, for communities, for parents, and for professionals. It describes the transferability and applicability to local and national contexts in a clear and a practical way, which basically means that using a best practice from one region or one country can be usually easily used in another context in another country. Just wanted to focus your attention that while a book is mainly tailored to the needs of early childhood education and care, but it's also useful for parents, community-based organizations, and other institutions, organizations interested in collaborative practices for inclusiveness. The practices presented in the handbook present many simple, low-cost but effective strategies and actions that nurseries and kindergartners can take to increase the engagement of youngsters, parents, and communities in supporting children in need. Now shortly about 4 chapters. So first chapter is consists of 16 best practices for tailored to the needs of children. So there are best strategies, approaches, and activities for encouraging children to support the participation of their peers with intellectual disabilities, helping them feel safe and welcome, develop a sense of belonging, and reach their full potential. So it's targeted to children with and without disabilities. And the example of the best practice I can tell you about is a fairy tale read to students where a puppy grows in a field, upsetting the daisies that can lead to many artistic and creative tasks, exploring diversity and inclusion. Another good practice that is presented in the handbook is a simple activity called family wall at kindergarten with photos of families of the children attending it, directly engages children and visually shows differences between the families, avoiding any stereotypes and underlying diversity. Chapter 2 is targeted on parents and engaging parents in inclusive policy. So there are approaches and strategies for connecting with for connecting and ensuring the successful inclusion of children with intellectual disabilities. And one of the example here is a good practice called Time for Parents, a safe space for sharing experience, including the parenting of a child with disability with the help of a psychologist and for engaging with other parents. Chapter 3 is targeted to the teachers. So there are approaches and strategies for encouraging open debate and discussion within the workplace in which the ECEC staff will feel free to express questions and requests, help in relation to working with children with intellectual disabilities. And one of the practice here is the informal, multidisciplinary and supervision meetings in the kindergartens. Trainings are presented here, but also there's an example of a 3-staged model developed by Finnish kindergartens to promote learning and personal growth of children. And last chapter is targeted to the community. So there are strategies for coordinating information, resources, and services from community-based organizations, business, cultural, and civic organizations for inclusion of children with intellectual disabilities. And one of the examples here presented in the handbook is the PINCO XL Lab, which aims to expand the number of childcare places for children with heavier care needs through a neighborhood-oriented offer, and also a network of external supporters such as psychotherapists, speech therapists, and nurses. And there are also described many social campaigns, seminar lectures, and celebrations of special needs days. And the handbook has been evaluated. Many, not all of them, but many of the practices were piloted in 5 project partner organizations from Belgium, Cyprus, Greece, Macedonia, and Poland, both in cities and towns and villages, and also in public and private settings. So the feedback was very positive, and we can see here one of the kindergarten in Dobra with the elephant behind, which is one of the good practice. So I have four evaluations from these 4 different settings, and one. So we start with children, and one of the kindergarten was piloting the good practice called Elmer, the multicolor elephant. And staff members who implemented this good practice highly assessed its usefulness for discussing sensitive issues with children. It provides a playful and attractive way of reflecting an otherness. The practitioners value the mixture of different activities, watching the film, but also discussion, drawings, and coloring. Children were truly engaged, and we can see one quote here that Elmer was said to be different, but other elephants liked him just the way he was. Another kid said that all children want to play and have fun. It doesn't matter if you are different. I want to play with you. So we have good evaluation also from children here. Then another evaluation comes from piloting Actida good practice, which offers support for autism. We should say syndrome right now. So the professionals who evaluated this good practice highly assessed its usefulness for addressing the difficult topic with the parents. They very much appreciated the seriousness and professional way in which the information was provided. It was stated that this good practice can be liberating for parents who had just heard the diagnosis of their child. And we have 2 more evaluations. So a good practice called a group around the child. So it's from this group of the professionals. And here members of the group can be teachers, psychologists, speech therapists, occupational therapists. And pilot workshop participants expressed a strong interest in this activity, finding it very appealing and in line with the most advanced practices. It was stated that it would be very good for the school to adopt such a practice, considering that the level of exchange with professionals providing support to children is currently very low. And last evaluation comes from the group of the community. So the practice is called Marching for Autism, and it's a parade on the World Autism Awareness Day on 2nd April. And professionals who piloted this good practice appreciated that this activity takes place outdoors. So in fact, you go to the community itself, and beyond the walls beyond the walls of the classroom, it promotes diversity and togetherness amongst the local community. They also mentioned that this event can be visible to everyone from the community. So as the conclusion, you can see that this handbook presents many activities, the techniques, including complex and elaborated practices, as well as simple, low cost but effective actions with nurseries and kindergartens in supporting children in need. It can be, again, helpful for teachers, parents, and community members, and children, of course. Okay, and just as the conclusion, we hope that this handbook can be useful also for you, the professionals who can use the good practices described in the handbook, which we encourage you to do so.
Thank you, Jolanta. Yeah. The handbook is available on our website, and we you are all welcome to take a look and see all the practices that you can implement not only at the school, also at home. And as you can see, like all the evaluations were really nice, so they are all for you. And now we give the floor to Epaminondas.
Thank you very much. It's great being here. My name is Paminondas Koutavelis. I'm a project manager at CMOP Greece. I'm part of the health promotion unit, and it has been a really great pleasure being a part of the Embrace project and seeing it from the beginning and finally coming here in Brussels for the final conference. It has been a great experience, and we have really gathered a lot of valuable feedback and collaborated with, apart from the partners, with many kindergartens back in Greece, and it gave us the opportunity to start thinking more about the concept of inclusion, and especially about children with intellectual needs, not only at a quite early age, but also generally in their life. As it's already mentioned, what I'm going to present to you today is the e-learning course. Um, as part of one of the deliverables for the project was to develop one course that is free and accessible for all professionals, all people who might be interested in the topic, and to give them some tools and the basic knowledge on the concept of inclusion and intellectual disabilities, focusing on some more specific details based on the results that we got from the research that we implemented at the first stage of the project. We already mentioned the overall objective of our project, so I don't want to tire you with repeating the same things. As I mentioned, the e-learning course, here you have a QR code that you can scan, and it will redirect you to the e-learning course on our website, and there you will find the 4 modules that we have developed. Generally, the main focus of the e-learning course is a response to the evidence that there is a need for training and education in relation to the intellectual disabilities in the ECEC sector, and the systematic building of the level of capacity. Generally, what we have witnessed is that there's not a specific training tailored to the needs that all professionals have, and we try to cover most of the basics and general introduction and explanation of the core topics around inclusion and the intellectual disabilities of the children at a young age. Just to make sure that we are going to develop something that is going to be easy to use, and at the same time it will cover all the needs, we followed the specific steps for the development. First of all, we designed the structure of the course, the lessons and the activities, as well as the learning objectives. We developed the material and tried to make it as interactive as possible, so it will not be something it will be more engaging to the professionals. As it's already mentioned to the handbook, we also did a pilot, and the goal was to include at least 20 professionals from each country. Based on the pilots that we did in every country, we gathered valuable feedback from the professionals in order to adapt and to make any corrections and tailor the content to the specific needs. And finally, a summary report with all the results, the feedback that we gathered throughout the pilot, and all the steps that for anyone who wants to have a summary of the whole process is available. It will also be available on the project website. Regarding the timeline, we started the development of the e-learning course back in September 2022, and we finalized the whole content last month, not last month because we are in December, so we finalized it in October, where we finalized the national versions, and we worked on the summary report, as well as made sure that all the content was adapted based on the participants' feedback. As for the modules, the e-learning core consists of 4 modules. The first one is the core philosophy that underpins the inclusive early childhood education and care systems. The second is an introduction to the EU quality framework for early childhood education and care and other key EU policies in the sector. The third module is understanding the cognitive and social development in children with intellectual disabilities, focusing on autism spectrum disorder, Down syndrome, Fragile X syndrome, and Williams syndrome. Lastly, the final module consisted of the key principles in working with children with intellectual disability in the ECEC settings. As I mentioned, the pilots in each country happened around May and June of 2023. In total, we managed to gather more than 100 participants. To be more specific, 127 professionals participated at the pilots of the e-learning course. And we also had professionals from kindergartens, nursery, we had administrative staff, directors of kindergartens, and even in some cases, some stakeholders. As for the achievements that I think that it's quite important to mention in this stage is that it was showcased that we managed to promote the concept of raising awareness and for the inclusion, to help by developing the basic knowledge and understanding of the situation, to engage with the participants, and we also received quite warm and positive feedback from them. As I mentioned, the final step was based on the feedback that we got from all the participants, which we gathered it orally and at the same time from a written evaluation questionnaire. We fine-tuned the content. To be a little bit more specific about the pilots, because it's something that we really think that showcases exactly the importance and at the same time how interesting it was for the professionals as well. Here you can see a small summary regarding the participants. In North Macedonia, we had 33 participants from 7 institutions where they expressed their thoughts through art, through their vision of the social inclusion in the schools, and some activities that created a safe space for a fruitful conversation with professionals. In Belgium, we had the partners had 15 participants with meetings face-to-face and online, and it gave the opportunity for participants from diverse backgrounds and at the same time from people who might not have the opportunity to travel from areas that were not close to where the pilots happened, to participate and to express their thoughts and concerns, but at the same time to give their valuable feedback. In Cyprus, we had in total 21 participants with teachers from diverse backgrounds and experiences, providing a unique perspective to the project. In Greece, it was implemented in the form of a seminar with the collaboration with the Regional Directorate of Primary Secondary Education of Attica, and we implemented in the form of a workshop which lasted approximately 4 hours and involved a lecture style presentation followed by interactive teaching methods and activities to discuss the course's content. Finally, in Poland, we had 32 participants, and the classes involved various interactive activities such as integrative exercises using theater techniques and group discussion, which allowed for a dynamic exchange of opinions and insights. Based on the results from each country, we can say that in North Macedonia, the participants expressed a high level of interest in learning about our project and the Embrace project and engaging with professionals from other kindergartens. The training and the piloting opportunities led to improved knowledge, skills, and attitudes, and at the same time in promoting social inclusion, which is also our main topic for our project. The participants emphasized the need for further professional development to provide better services, which is something that was also evident in the transnational report of the first result, and how they can provide better better services and nurture positive childhood development. In Belgium, the participants found the e-learning course useful in filling the knowledge gap on the inclusive education, and they expressed an overall satisfaction with the content. And based on their suggestion, most of the improvements were made. For example, the user friendliness and some audio descriptions for enhanced accessibility. For Cyprus, it was witnessed that there was a positive feedback from the partners acknowledging the value of the workshop in fostering inclusivity in ECEC settings, and they expressed an interest in delving deeper into the social and developmental aspects of the disorders, suggesting some opportunities for attending some conferences to enhance their professional development. In Greece, we experienced a resounding success in promoting inclusive environments through the workshop, and the participants highlighted the practical relevance of the content and the need of ongoing collaboration and exchange of ideas among the professionals. Finally, in Poland, the participants appreciated the course promotional value for inclusive education and its role in invigorating the self-education among educators, and they made some recommendation, including the course in central or local institutions, training offerings dealing with inclusive education. Overall, as you see from the feedback that I had a small summary. The pilot implementation of the Embrace online course was successfully conducted in diverse educational settings across the 5 countries. In total, 127 professionals participated in the pilots, and later they enrolled on the course. And the workshop and events facilitated collaborative learning environments and supported participants in understanding and implementing inclusive practices in early childhood and care. Here you can see some quotes and feedback that we gathered. I will just leave some time, so maybe you can skim it through. But more or less, it was a very positive reinforcement. At the same time, it was really important to see that the professionals collaborated very well with the trainers, but at the same time, even among each other. It's something that they didn't have, as it was mentioned in one of the feedback before. They didn't have the opportunity to collaborate with other professionals and to also discuss specific topics on how they can deal with students with a student in their classroom, how they can maybe talk with the parent, or for example a professional who wasn't very knowledgeable of the topic, how they can reinforce and learn more about the intellectual disabilities and including children in their classrooms. One of the comments that we received while we were gathering the feedback was that in some cases, for example, on the 3rd module that we were presenting the intellectual disabilities and giving the background and information about it, was that in some cases the participants would like something more, or maybe they weren't sure on how to tackle it in their own country, because in every country there's different legislation, there are different opportunities, and at the same time, even during the education that they follow in order to become kindergarten teachers, they might not delve into the intellectual disabilities as much as they would like. For that reason, we decided to create a library with resources from each country. So the partners collected national resources, tools, articles, videos, podcasts, whatever was accessible in each country in their national languages, in order to provide to the participants the opportunity to learn more about the situation in each country, to gather more tools, for example, books or specific approaches, in order to understand more the intellectual disabilities and how they can improve and support their children. As a summary, we can say that it was a very successful implementation and achieved the goal of promoting the inclusive education for children with intellectual disabilities. And the pilot implementation of the online course in the different countries showcased the positive outcomes and valuable feedback for the improvement. Some of the key achievements and successes were evident, with participants expressing their appreciation for the comprehensive content and the potential benefits of the course for the inclusive education. The feedback from the participants in all participating countries, in Poland, Belgium, Cyprus, Greece, and in North Macedonia. There's a small mistake on the slide. Further reinforced the positive impact of the Embrace platform and the e-learning course. And the participants praised the course's structure, the relevance, and the practicality, suggesting some minor improvements that, as I mentioned, we all followed and we did them already. At the same time, when the participants finish with each module, there's also a self-assessment questionnaire that helps them make sure that they have completely understood the content, and to make sure that if something is not very clear, that they can go back and take it. Generally, as if from everything that I have presented so far, if we can maybe say one word or one sentence for each of the topics, is that for the achievements, a successful implementation in all the countries, and achieving the goals for promoting the inclusion of children, the pilots with very valuable feedback from the participants, and it was something that even later on we received emails and contact from participants saying that they would like to either have a bigger training or even to share it with other colleagues and make sure that everyone is part of it. As I mentioned, we faced some challenge, some small technical issues, maybe some language barriers or time constraint based on the time frame that we had to implement all of the activities. However, in the end, we overcame all the difficulties, and we tend to all the feedback that participants gave in order to cover all the needs. And regarding the fine tuning, as I mentioned, with the library of experiences, we made sure to go a step forward and a step further in order to make sure that we were going to provide to the participants the best experience that they can have from the e-learning course. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Again, the online course is available on our website, and I welcome you to do it because it's really interesting. And as Epaminondas has mentioned, it had a really well welcome from the participants, and then we had a really big number of people who could test it, and then they could provide us like a lot of feedback, so we could provide a good quality online course. And we go for the final project result with Cristala. The floor is yours.
Okay, last but not least, I hope you are all with us after a couple of hours. So I'll try to keep it short and to give you just the main point of the project, this project result, and to show you some videos that we developed. So let's start. What is this toolkit about? So it's the final and the last project result that we implemented the last couple of months. Actually, it's a compilation of everything that you heard before that everyone mentioned, and includes useful resources that teachers, parents, and children can use in order to be informed about the topic. So that's why it's called awareness raising toolkit campaign. Let's see more in detail. So to develop this project result, we developed a step-by-step methodology. First of all, we developed the content, and we divided the whole toolkit into 3 different chapters, which I'm gonna present you in a while. The second step is about the pilot testing in each partner country, which again, I'm gonna present you at the end some of the main results from all the countries. And then the finalization, the fine-tuning of the toolkit based on the pilot testing, the publication, and the dissemination of the whole toolkit. So the 3 main chapters of the toolkit is the first one, some dissemination strategies and guidelines on how the schools, individuals, teachers, parents can make a campaign regarding the inclusion of children with intellectual disabilities. The chapter 2 is some resources about the children, More specifically, we developed from scratch some brochures, posters, and videos, which you can find printed at the reception of the info desk. And in a while, we're going to present 2 short videos that we developed in the chapter 2. And in chapter 3, it's about the adults. Again, we developed brochures, posters, and videos addressed to adults, which can be used. So if you are a teacher or a policymaker or a parent, you can visit the toolkit and you can download whatever it suits you, and you can disseminate, share it as it is, and you can make your own campaign. You can find them on the website in English, Polish, Greek, and Macedonian languages. Okay, so I will go very quickly through the chapters. As I mentioned before, the chapter 1 is about the dissemination strategies, and it's divided into 3 subtopics, let's say: the objectives of the toolkit, the target groups, and what the educators will need to create a campaign, let's say. Okay, here we have more in details things about the chapter 1. We have also some tips and tricks about the social media. As we all know, campaigns nowadays, it's more or less based on the social media. So we included some tips, do's and don'ts for teachers, educators, parents, individuals, or what to do and not to do on social media when they create a campaign. Also, we mentioned in the toolkit that it's very, very important to identify our stakeholders, the schools, the educators and the teachers. They need to find specific stakeholders to address this toolkit. And the final step on this chapter is, of course, to create our campaign. I will skip that because it's already mentioned. I don't want to waste our time. I will go directly to chapter 2, which is about the children, the resources that we developed specifically for the children. We developed 3 posters, 3 brochures, and 3 videos. Again, you can find them printed in the info desk, and I guess you can take some of them if you want. Yes, and here you can see the topics of each poster and each brochure, because the main point behind of each resource is to have a context, to include some pictures, icon, which is directed for children. And here you can see the video, which I think we can present it now. Actually, there are 2 videos. They are very short. So yeah, so this is the first one.
Join us in celebrating diversity in our garden of friendship. Hello, friends. Welcome to a magical garden where diversity blooms and thrives. Today, we'll explore the wonderful world of diversity. Get ready to learn how each of us is just as beautiful and essential as the flowers and animals in our garden. In our classroom, just like in this garden, we play, learn, and grow together. We celebrate each other's talents and help each other bloom into our full potential. By embracing diversity and celebrating our unique qualities, we fill our space with kindness and understanding, so everyone can shine. Let's take a closer look at our garden friends. The plants, flowers, and vegetables in our garden come with different colors, smells, and tastes. Like each of your classmates has unique qualities. Let's look at our carrot friends. Most of their growth happens beneath the soil, hidden from view. Likewise, some individuals have talents and strengths that may not be immediately visible, but when discovered and nurtured, they can blossom and shine. Tomatoes need water and sunlight to grow healthy and strong. Similarly, some children might need extra help to thrive and be happy. When we lend a helping hand, just like providing water and sunlight to a tomato plant, we can help our friends grow and mature. In our garden, there is so much more life. There are birds and many different bugs too. Say hi to caterpillar and snail. The caterpillar moves with determination, exploring different parts of the garden and munching on leaves, contributing to the ecosystem's balance. The snail carries its home on its back, reminding us that each person has a unique story. The snail moves at its own pace, leaving behind a trail that tells its journey through the garden. Say hi to our garden bees. The bees represent hard work and collaboration. With their vibrant yellow and black stripes, they buzz around the garden, collecting nectar from flowers. Similarly, children can work together towards a shared goal and cooperate, just like the bees do spreading pollen. Meet our friend the mole. Even though the mole is blind, thanks to a great sense of smell, she is able to dig deep tunnels underground and find food. Now it's time to bring our garden of friendship to life in your very own classroom. Great job, everyone. Our diverse and inclusive class garden is blooming with friendship. Thank you.
Okay, so that one, it was one of the two videos that we developed for the children chapter. And yeah, we can see also the second one.
Γεια σας αγόρια και κορίτσια. Καλώς ορίσατε σε ένα ξεχωριστό βίντεο όπου θα μιλήσουμε για την ευγένεια και τη συμπερίληψη φίλων με ειδικές ανάγκες στον νηπιαγωγείο. Σήμερα θα μάθουμε για κάτι που λέγεται νοητική αναπηρία και θα βρούμε διασκεδαστικούς τρόπους να κάνουμε όλους να νιώθουν ευπρόσδεκτοι. Είστε έτοιμοι? Ας ξεκινήσουμε. Λοιπόν, τι είναι μια νοητική αναπηρία? Είναι όταν κάποιος σκέφτεται και μαθαίνει με διαφορετικό τρόπο. Αυτό σημαίνει ότι μπορεί να χρειάζεται λίγη παραπάνω βοήθεια για να καταλάβει κάτι ή για να μάθει νέα πράγματα. Αλλά ξέρετε τι? Απλά επειδή κάποιος είναι διαφορετικός, δεν σημαίνει ότι δεν μπορεί να κάνει φοβερά πράγματα. Συμπερίληψη σημαίνει να συμμετέχουμε όλοι στο παιχνίδι και ας είμαστε διαφορετικοί. Με αυτόν τον τρόπο, το παιχνίδι μας γίνεται καλύτερο. Ο καθένας από εμάς παίρνει ρόλο που ταιριάζει στις δυνατότητές του και έτσι η ομάδα μας θα κάνει θαύματα. Ας δούμε μερικούς εύκολους τρόπους με τους οποίους μπορούμε να βεβαιωθούμε ότι όλοι αισθάνονται ευπρόσδεκτοι και ευχάριστοι στον νηπιαγωγείο μας. Να είμαστε ευγενικοί και φιλικοί. Να χαμογελάμε και να λέμε γεια σε όλους, συμπεριλαμβανομένων όλων των φίλων μας στον νηπιαγωγείο. Να χρησιμοποιούμε ευγενικά λόγια και να μην κοροϊδεύουμε ή πειράζουμε κάποιον. Να φερόμαστε στους άλλους με σεβασμό και κατανόηση, ακριβώς όπως θα θέλαμε να μας φέρουν. Να είμαστε καλοί φίλοι. Να προσφέρουμε βοήθεια και υποστήριξη όταν κάποιος το χρειάζεται. Να δείχνουμε υπομονή και κατανόηση. Κάποιες φορές οι φίλοι μας μπορεί να χρειαστούν περισσότερο χρόνο για να κάνουν κάποια πράγματα ή να ακολουθήσουν τις οδηγίες σε ένα παιχνίδι. Να ακούμε προσεκτικά και να δείχνουμε ενδιαφέρον για αυτά που έχουν να πούν οι άλλοι. Η σκέψη και τα συναισθήματα όλων είναι σημαντικά. Να έχουμε ενδιαφέρουσες δραστηριότητες. Μπορείτε να ζητήσετε βοήθεια από έναν γονιό ή δάσκαλο γι' αυτό. Να σχεδιάζουμε δραστηριότητες που μπορούν να απολαύσουν και να συμμετέχουν όλοι. Να επιλέγουμε παιχνίδια που επικεντρώνονται στη συνεργασία, αντί να υπάρχουν νικητές και χαμένοι. Να αλλάζουμε τις δραστηριότητες, αν χρειαστεί, για να τις κάνουμε πιο εύκολες και ευχάριστες. Για παράδειγμα, μπορείτε να χρησιμοποιήσετε εικόνες, πιο απλές οδηγίες ή να δώσετε περισσότερο χρόνο για την ολοκλήρωση των εργασιών. Να προωθούμε.
Okay, hopefully you can understand some Greek as well. So yes, you can find most of our videos in the YouTube channel, which they are all in English, and some of them they have also voiceovers in Polish, Greek, and Macedonian. So Similarly, in chapter 3, for adults, we developed again in the same logic, the posters, brochures, and videos for adults. Of course, you can find them online. Again, here are the topics of the posters and brochures that us as adults we can use. So you can just download them and use them directly if you create your own campaign. Here you can see some examples of the brochures. And regarding the pilot testing, in all the partner countries, in 5 partner countries, they pilot tested in 23 kindergartens in total. Generally, the feedback it was very positive. They expressed their strong enthusiasm and appreciation for the toolkit, that they can just download it and they can print and use the materials directly with no need to create from scratch something else. Also, they really enjoyed the videos, especially the one that we presented at the beginning, the first one, the Garden of the Future. This one was one of the strongest feedback, let's say. Also, they provide more detailed feedback about the chapters, about the posters, brochures, what we can change, what we can use, for example, to add more images in the brochures, to add some more activities that the parents can use with their children at home and stuff like this. Yes, and also some of them, some of the kindergartens and more specifically the teachers, they really like the idea of have this project result in this kind of projects, that it's only for dissemination purposes, only for promotional material, and it's not so theoretical, let's say, so they can actually use it, and yeah, they really like it. So here you can see some photos from each partner country. You can see some of the pilot testings was face-to-face. Some of them it was online. And thank you. I hopefully that it was short and yeah.
Thank you. Well, this has been a really good summary and explanation of all the project results that we have developed. Again, they are all available on the website, and we welcome you to take a look. And then if you have any idea about another project, you can always scale up in the project results that we have developed, because at the end of the day, that's the aim, to not start everything from scratch. And I don't think there is a better ending of this final conference than asking my colleague Irene to come to see the, well, I don't know if you have any questions, sorry. Yeah, we have time enough for questions. I don't know if you have any questions for the speakers. Maybe, yes, Tom?
Quick question, what are the next steps? Are there any?
Sorry, our colleague Irene will present them shortly. Maybe online, do we have something? Well, then we can go to Irene, to the final speaker, who will present the next steps and the conclusions of the project.
Thanks a lot, Angela. So before I start with the presentation, I still would like to try this interactive experience that didn't work at the beginning, but we tried to fix the thing. No, first thing, I would like to start to show you what was our starting point. So I asked to write down a word that you associate to inclusive early childhood education and care, and here is the results. So we have, I mean, it's small here, I cannot really read, but for sure equality, understand, professionalism,
human rights, important, inclusion, personalized, community. So I hope that this thing came up today, that our project helped making this happen a bit more. And as a second participatory activity, I would ask Dimi to share the QR again. And I would like to ask you what was the most interesting for you today. I will also. And of course, also the people online are invited. So can we start seeing what this is the first one? Okay, something is happening. I'm so happy. Some trial, I think, someone that, but yeah, so people enjoyed the practical tools presentation, the quality of the presentations and the speakers, the toolkit, the fact of meeting new people, learning, the local practices, the fact that inclusion is possible. Toolkit again, the toolkit is really, I cannot read the project. Okay, the case studies. The speakers, no more talk, let's do it. Okay, yeah, having something that can help including children in their classroom and the hope to improve. So maybe, yeah, I think that we can now move on. Thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts. I'm very happy that this experiment didn't fail at 100%. And yeah, now I would go into the conclusions of, yeah, no. So we had some discussion with the partners in the last days and yesterday when we had our final project meeting. And we shared what we learned between us, and I'm here happy to share this with you. So what we learned in this journey is, first of all, that there is a need out there. There is a general lack for tools for professional inclusion, in particular for what happens before primary school. So what we did is meeting something that is a real need. And also from the professional side, not only in terms of strategies for inclusion, but also training, there is really a big need. What we understood is that in general, I mean, for what concerns disabilities, those teachers that are not specialized on the topic know really little. They cannot often like distinguish. They don't have idea of developmental phases, how to recognize this also when there are some special needs. Also that the parents need support too. This project was about 4 target groups. So one were the professional, another were the parents, another were the children, all the children in the classroom, and the last one were the communities. And of course, parents are the first educators of their children. And we are moving towards a family-centered approach in many kind of topics and areas. And also education and pre-primary education is one of those. And the piloting was a great, I mean, multiple activity in the sense that it helped us reach out already to the ground, because the schools that we involved, the professionals we involved,
have been knowledgeable about what we are doing. They express enthusiasm and will to start to implement what we developed. And you know, like with sometimes European projects, they become something that is in a website and is there for those who developed it, and maybe from some people that are aware about the EU dimension, but not so much from the practitioners on the ground. So the fact of piloting was really a very good way to have a bigger outreach, and also to improve the quality of what we were doing. Maybe some of the results we developed could be even more closely have been developed with the professionals. But for sure, the fact of having some moments for us to try and discuss, even only discuss what we had done, was really helpful for us. So yeah, it was challenging sometimes to reach out because of course they were not real partners of the project that weren't compensated for it. But once we could found people that were interested really in the quality of what we were doing, then we had very good collaborations. So this was what we learned. The other question we are asking to ourselves is, okay, we did this, we did these pilots, but how can we scale up the results? So already all the results, I mean, it was said quite a few times, are available on the project website, social media, and YouTube channel. And we, as EASPD, are a big network active in Europe and beyond. And we do have multiple partners. Some of them are here in the room, some of them are joining online, and some others are very busy. But we will reach out to them and share our results for them to be aware, also because the fact of having them in English can be helpful in this sense. We also have knowledge hub, so a section of our website where we store resources, and there for sure, apart from the project website, we will reproduce the key results, and we also have a section for e-learning courses, so the course will be there too. Yeah, the idea is also the stepping stone for older ages is not very understandable, but it means that when working with children and in activities for children from 6 plus, what we developed can be inspiring and useful, because in the end, somehow it's there are activities that are maybe simpler, but it doesn't mean that they cannot be used for children that are a bit older. Maybe it's the opposite that doesn't work sometimes, because when you have activities that are very complex for older children, then it's difficult to apply them to another cohort that is from 0 to 5. But what we have can be used, and can be used also for developing other activities for the same target group. Some ideas to follow up could be to translate what we did in other languages. Could be to work more towards the parents, because we realize that there is a need there for emotional support, for better support to their children, in particular the age of early childhood education and care is the age often when the parents realize there is something different there, and this can come with fear, with stigma, with lack of acceptance. So I mean, in general, everything that can help parents, such as parenting apps or I mean, research tools, activities, is something that is really crucial also for them and for the children. For what concerns the professional, there is a political part, which is really like trying to advocate to have more training for them about inclusion in general and about disabilities in particular. which means having different and better university curricula, but also in-service training, such as the one that we developed. And then there is an element about child development, developmental monitoring. So the knowledge of the different developmental steps that a child would have, and how, if this is different, can be identified as a sign of a special need. So all professionals in schools, not only in schools, also in the health sector, should know about it and be able to identify risks, because the sooner the better. These are years where the neuroplasticity of the child is higher. So if the parents are supported, if the child is supported properly, you can really make a change. And another very important moment is about the transition from kindergarten to primary schools. So it's a delicate moment, and so activities, manuals, tools could be developed for these parts. I think, yeah, that was it. We are early. So if there is anyone who wants to ask, add, comment on anything, you are welcome to do so. Online, nothing. So I would thank you all, the people here in the room, for your attention and participation. The people online, that are many, for being with us until now, and for having followed. Our partners for developing this project, that was very interesting journey, successful, where we found ways to do from research activities to creative activities to really like on the ground activities. It was great. It was great to work with you and to share this passion. And I would like to thank the speakers that came. Thanks, Hilde. Thanks to Géraldine, who is not there anymore. I mean, in the room anymore. And yeah, I would say goodbye now and invite you to follow our social media. We have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram page where we will give you the last updates about the project, and to go on our website to follow our course and to check our materials. Thank you.